So you just executed a contract on your house? Now what?
Hey, it's Melody Watts
And Donna James
with eXp Realty here in beautiful Rockwall, Texas. It's Make a Move Monday, and every Monday we get you one step closer to your next move by giving you the best tips and tricks for buying or selling your home.
You've had several showings on your home, and you may think you're done, but not so quick. There's more to do.
That's right, Donna. There's still a few steps to take before you'll see that cash show up in your bank.
If you haven't already provided the seller's disclosure, you better do that right away.
We have a whole video on the seller's disclosure, so be sure you watch that. Within 3 days of executing the contract, the buyer will deposit earnest money at the title company.
The earnest money lets you know that the buyer has a stake in the game. And if they fail to perform as stated in the contract, there's a possibility you get to keep the earnest money.
Yeah. Well, if the buyer does go ahead and close on the home, then the earnest money is credited towards their closing costs. Also, the buyer will pay you an option fee within 3 days of executing that contract. The fee pays for the buyer's right to terminate the contract within the first few days, and they will get their earnest money back.
During this time period, which we call the option period, the buyers can inspect the property to determine if they want to move forward on the contract.
The buyer will normally hire a licensed home inspector for the general home inspection. Then they may also choose to have other specialists like termite, foundation, HVAC, roof, plumbing.
Prior to the inspections, make sure all the areas of your home are accessible to the inspector.
Yeah, that inspection usually takes anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. The buyers will most likely be there for at least part of it. It's best to just leave the house during that time and allow the buyers to have that time with their inspectors.
Based on the findings of the inspection, the buyer may request that you make some repairs or compensate them otherwise. If you don't agree to make all the repairs, then you can negotiate back and forth to make sure everything is agreed upon. If an agreement cannot be agreed upon during the option period, then the buyers can cancel the contract and get their earnest money back.
The buyer may require that you provide a survey for the property. In many instances, that survey that you got when you purchased or maybe you refinanced, that same survey will be fine. But if you don't have an adequate survey, then your agent and the title company will assist you in ordering a new survey. If your home is in a homeowners association, then the title company will help you order the HOA documents that you're required to provide.
You may be required to pay a fee for those HOA documents, and that usually just runs a few hundred.
Before preparing the deed transferring the ownership of the property, the title company is going to want to perform a title search just to make sure that you own the property and that there are no other legal claims against it.
If the buyer is financing their property, the lender will order a home appraisal.
And if for some reason that appraisal does come in low, then the buyer could terminate based on that. But sometimes if you want to avoid termination, it might be in your best interest to try to renegotiate the price to either meet the appraised value or somewhere in between.
Right. The buyer could bring cash to the table.
Yeah.
Or you could lower the price of the home.
Yeah. Also, that appraiser is looking at the condition of the property just to make sure that the condition is adequate.
Yeah, the lender may require some extra repairs to be made, and those would have to be made prior to closing.
Typically, the contract will specify a deadline for the buyer to get their full financing approved. So this normally falls a week or two prior to the closing deadline. If the buyer senses that they are not going to be able to get their loan approved, they could terminate the contract and receive their full earnest money deposit back.
Right. Now that the loan is approved, it's safe to start packing. And typically a week or so before closing, you'll want to get your mail and your utilities scheduled to forward to your new home.
I think you should plan to keep utilities all connected until the day after closing, just to give the buyer an opportunity to get theirs all connected.
Right. That's just safe little padding.
Yeah. Make sure you've completed any of those required repairs several days prior to closing. You'll need to provide the receipts and warranties to the buyer as well. Good chance that the buyer is going to want to do a final walkthrough a day or two before closing, just to make sure that all the repairs are done and that you've left the property clean and in good condition.
It's best to have everything out of the home and it broom swept clean for the final walkthrough for the buyers.
Yeah. About 3 days before closing, the title company will prepare what we'll call a closing disclosure for you to review. It's going to have all of the fees outlined in it, and you should review that with your agent and make sure all the amounts are correct.
On closing day, you'll sign all of the documents at the title company. And if you're married, you'll want to make sure both husband and wife are available to sign documents. At least in Texas, that's required.
The buyer will also be signing that day, and they'll have their own closing appointment, so you probably aren't going to see them at closing. Once both parties have signed, the loan will fund, and then the transfer will be complete. Funding can take anywhere from a few minutes to several hours, so it's best to sign early in the day. That way you can make sure that funding happens the same day.
If there's specific information you wish to share with the buyers, you can write out a detailed note and leave it on the counter, along with the keys, the garage door opener.
If you have a mortgage on your home, title will use the proceeds from the sale of your home to pay off your mortgage, as well as any closing costs. Whatever is left over will be wired to you that day or the next business day.
That's it for now. We'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.